Let's head to Parliament, where parliamentarians were supposed or were expected to take a decision on a Member of Parliament for Asin Central, Ken Agyapong. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is standing by with the very latest on that development. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Gipsy.
Joseph, what has happened with that recommendation for sanctions against the Member of Parliament for Asin Central?
Yes, so the House did not consider that report today. Yesterday, the Speaker indicated that this was an item that, although they were supposed to look at it yesterday, they were moving it to today. But they kept skipping it on the items which were on the agenda for the House to actually look at until sitting was eventually adjourned. I approached the Majority Leader, Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, a few minutes ago and asked him what happened and what was the reason for the decision not to look at it today. The only response he gave is that they will take care of that item tomorrow, Thursday, and that was just the feedback that he gave.
Interesting. What else has they? Was a Member of Parliament himself in Parliament today, Joseph?
Yes, Ken Agyapong was in the House himself. Muntaka Mubarak, who is the MP who recommended that he be sanctioned, was also on the floor. The first Deputy Speaker, who is also chair of the Privileges Committee, was also present on the floor. It looks like everyone had the expectation that this particular item will be dealt with, although it wasn't. I had a conversation with Katie Hammond, who is also a Member of Parliament for Adansia Sokoa, and he's actually Ken Agyapong's lawyer. And he indicates that they went through the processes at the level of the Privileges Committee. They're looking forward to whatever the recommendations may be. They are not fully convinced there was anything that their client did wrong to have warranted any possible sanctions, but he insists he hasn't seen the third recommendations of the Privileges Committee, which came out back in July last year. But as I indicated, the Majority Leader says the item will be dealt with tomorrow, Thursday, and we look forward to seeing how the processes would go and whether the House would accept the recommendations of the committee to either reprimand or suspend Ken Agyapong for the rest of the session.
Very well. And one of the key things that people have been interested in, Joseph, has been whether or not the suspension is with or without pay.
Well, from the indication that we're getting, a suspension would obviously be without not only his salary, but also without all the privileges that accrue to a Member of Parliament. Things having to do with allowances, things having to do with the fact that even when you are going in and out of Parliament, the police cannot pick you up, and all the other privileges associated with it. So yes, it would be if the House goes ahead to approve the recommendation, and mind you, the recommendations are two, either a reprimand or a suspension. If they approve a reprimand, then yes, his salary will be suspended, and all other privileges he enjoys as a Member of Parliament will be suspended, in addition to the salary.
And for those who moved, who made the move for this to happen, a key amongst which is the Member of Parliament for Asawase, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, did he have any response to the fact that the matter was not even raised today in Parliament?
Well, he mainly looked on, but interestingly, as the sitting was coming to an end, particularly on the minority bench, they kept drawing the attention of the Speaker by shouting, right from the back bench that, the issue with Ken Agyapong was captured as item number 6 on the agenda for today.
Okay.
So they kept repeatedly shouting and making the point that the Speaker should make sure he addresses the issue with item number 6, but the Speaker eventually adjourned the House and it wasn't dealt with.
Okay. We also know that the RTI, there was some feedback, or there has been some feedback on the RTI. It doesn't look like it's going to be passed as soon as a lot of people have been made to expect.
Exactly. So there were more than 139 amendments to the RTI bill after it was referred to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee last year, and they brought their report to Parliament. Those were the specific amendments that they suggested. As I speak to you, they are done completely 100% with all of those amendments the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee recommended, and the House today ended what is described as the consideration stage when it comes to the RTI bill, the consideration of the various amendments. So the expectation was that after this, then we would have what is described as the third reading, and then it would be approved. But there have been a number of developments. First of all, the House discussed one of the amendments, which now says that in the bill, government is being given up until 2020 to implement it. So the House is asking that Parliament, the executive, as much as possible, includes a budget for the implementation of the RTI bill in the 2020 budget statement. And again, the amendment to the bill is that what they describe as the commencement clause, the indication is that from the 2020 fiscal year, that's when implementation of the bill will actually start. Even if it gets approved today, its implementation would not begin today. But the chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee gave an indication that some other institutions and some other individuals have approached them with further amendments they would want to see to the RTI bill. So the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs is meeting this afternoon, right from 2 o'clock, to decide on whether to admit those suggested additional amendments to the bill. And if that happens, then they will do what they describe as a second consideration, which will then probably take weeks or months before eventually the bill goes through the third reading and eventual approval.
That's very interesting development in Parliament. Joseph, did anything else happen on the floor that our audience need to know?
So the House today approved a 10 million euro loan in order to allow for the importation of more than 300 tractors to help with agricultural mechanization in the country. The minority raised concerns that despite the subsidy that has been indicated, it will be so very much on the high side, and it's possible ordinary farmers will not be able to afford. By the way, the House went ahead and approved that particular loan facility. The House also witnessed an interrogation of the Minister for Education on a number of issues, including higher charges that universities are charging students who are going into graduation. So the Education Minister was present on the floor of Parliament earlier today as well. The House adjourned sitting about a little over an hour ago and went into a closed session, which ended a few minutes ago. They are back tomorrow, Thursday.
Joseph, thank you very much for the updates from Parliament. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, they're updating us on what's been happening as far as the recommendation for the suspension or reprimand of a Member of Parliament for Asin Central is concerned. We know that that issue was not raised on the floor today at all, even though the minority protested and tried in a way to remind the Speaker by mentioning the item number on the list of Parliament's business today. It was not called. But what we also know is that the RTI bill may just not be passed as soon as many people have been made to expect. We also know that a 10 million euro loan deal has been passed in Parliament today.